Okay, thanks, we're back in session again. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, he did not.
Okay, so now it is time for agencies.
Okay, I thought maybe a summary of where we are on agencies would be the best place to start. Because it really did look funny last week, because we have to do a 3-year comparison, and in '22, those all showed up in the agency list. And now most of these are in contracts within the departments. So for part of the FY23 budget, we went through an RFP process, and we had RFP for community arts programming, for early learning partnership, for economic workforce and development, homeless support services, and social service. So those were issued as individual RFPs and evaluated through the normal RFP evaluation process. And they chose the ones that, that they ranked them and funded according to what the funds that were allocated for each. Then there were a few that were sole source, and then there's the appropriation, which is still just CARTA and United Way for the stormwater assistance. So these are not appropriations, they're contracts with a contract form, standard contract form, with a scope of work attached to it. They're 4-year contracts that were awarded, and there's no change in funding for the year except for the Regional Homeless Coalition. Then the next question, so you can see that we have fairly even funding across around $9-10 million for each year. So it doesn't look as strange as it really did on that one page. And this is the combination of what the proposals that were awarded versus what they came in with their proposal price. So you can see that we had a bucket of dollars, and it was allocated. It was allocated based on the evaluations. The only one that I do want to point out for the homeless services, it was awarded more than the proposal, and that's because they have embedded in theirs a pass-through to the Chattanooga Community Kitchen for $70,000. So that one does, it looks like we awarded more than they asked, but there's a good reason for that. What kind of questions do you have?
So we will look at this again in 2 more years. We'll have another RFP process for the next budget cycle, assuming that's how the council chooses to do that in that many years.
It would be nice to figure out how to stagger it a little bit, because from what I could tell, it was a pretty intense and overwhelming process for a short period of time with so many responses.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what that looks like.
Okay.
With the Bessie Smith Hall, why did they get awarded less?
Just about all of them got awarded less, because there was $450,000 to split
For that bucket,
for that one.
community arts program.
You see that pretty consistently across the board.
Same as
Except for
Center
this
for Children.
and economic
Got
and
it.
workforce.
And this is a reminder, these decisions were made last
Last
summer. So this is saying FY23, so these decisions were made last summer. And so we're just reflecting this here this year as kind of a reminder that this is where things continue to stand, because these were annual, this is for a 4-year annual award. So these were not new decisions that were just made. These were made last year, and we're just continuing it forward. But
Have you done any evaluation on any of them?
yes, so something that council asked for with the change to this process is that, the IDP team would be looking at metrics for each of these entities and how they're delivering. And so we have been doing that and providing, looking at that for feedback and accountability for each of these entities. So that is a process that is ongoing,
Like the RFP process.
like the
In
RFP
general.
process in general. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Any questions or concerns? This looks different from the past because it is, and there were a number of what we called agency requests. There were a number of groups funded during the COVID funding period, which has nothing to do with this, but there were a whole list of things. So people may find those agencies there. Yes?
I'm not sure what was,
She's recognizing. Oh, were you?
What?
Sorry,
I
were
was
you-
gonna recognize.
okay.
All right, do you have something you want to
No,
say
no.
before I recognize Councilwoman Knoll? Okay.
Okay.
go.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. Chat room in the end, is that to assist with what, rent?
Chattanooga room in the end?
Chat room in the end?
I'm
The
not sure.
social service, what are those funds used for over
I
in
believe it's
there?
operational.
Operational?
I believe that from years past.
I think that's right. But I'd have to go back and check that.
We'd have to,
Councilwoman, from past memory, I think that was kind of a transitional housing support center.
So they're providing some form of service for
Housing and support services.
housing and instead of,
Yes.
okay,
I used to do some work.
oh, okay. Yeah, they're down the street from my
Any other
workplace, okay.
questions or concerns about any of that?
Are we able to increase, so this is what it'll look like for year, these same organizations will get this same amount of money every year for the next however many years?
2 more years.
2 more.
Mhm. That was what,
I'd like to see if we can move some of them around, like, and give, we need to take a look at some of them, cause we talking about housing is an issue, and we only giving 25,000. The chat room, I know they only asked for 30,000, but that's, they house women that's, with their children. Even when we look at some of the other ones, I mean, can we not, Project Return, they do great work too, but we can, can we look at it and say, hey, we're gonna reduce you by 50 to put it here, or, y'all the budget experts. I'm just saying that when we talking about we're in a need or crisis of housing, and the organizations that provide that kind of stuff, they have the less amount of money to give and caters. We've been talking about the opiate pandemic that's happening, and I ain't seeing it with mental health. All the stuff that council members keep talking about is like the funding in those areas are minimal.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you, check with them to see what kind of progress that they've made, at that point, you can go back and revisit those fundings that they have been allowed. If they have not produced is it a certain percentage that they have to produce or need to produce in order to keep those fundings?
I'd have to go back and look at the exact wording, but it's similar to lots of RFPs where, performance is a component of the contract. So, if there's a failure to perform, then we can stop the contract.
Okay,
So there's accountability there. Now, if we want to shave off a few thousand here and start giving it a few, then we start getting into weird territory probably. So, but if all of a sudden one of these completely stops performing or dramatically underperforms, then we can stop paying the contract. That's in there. So, yeah,
That would be like with any contract
absolutely.
for the city.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's an ongoing evaluation like the city
Right.
does with concrete deliverers
That's
or
right.
anything.
And,
Okay.
and accountability. Yeah, that's right.
Any other questions about any of these? Well, okay, for the record, and what I will say again tonight is, this is the last of our public education sessions. You have agreed to come back with all the information that council asked for relative to hotel motel taxes, what's it used for, the projected revenues, for additional property taxes for short-term vacation rentals, the traffic camera contract, and I will forward this in writing, and the list of city vehicles and who has them. Addition to that, council will be talking more about the use of council funds, the leftover funds for this year. And all of that, as Chair Dotley said, will be in a budget and finance meeting scheduled after following an agenda session. So the new schedule that we have is May 30th, there is no council meeting. So June 6th, we will have the public hearing on the budget. June 13th, we will have the first vote on the budget. And June 20th, we will have the second vote on the budget. And as any of you are talking with your constituents or having community meetings, please contact Ryan or Vicky if other questions come up, and they are prepared to help answer those or whatever you need. Is there anything else before we adjourn this session?
We did just have this one last piece that we said we were gonna hit on
Oh, all right, yes.
before we.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we
This is a
wrap
good
up.
one. Well, let me finish that.
Sure.
So that's the new schedule. And this one thing that we talked about earlier, given all that we've discussed and that you will be discussing, it's important that you go further and talk about something we're doing affirmatively, and that's the cost-saving incentive program.
I have a question. So only
Yes,
one
sir.
public hearing, just one public hearing?
There's one public
Just one,
hearing.
good.
Yes. And so the way we talked about this, Councilman, is that we would have all the education you guys need.
Mhm.
And then you would take them to your districts for one-on-one, however you do that. If any additional questions come up, then go to Ryan to get them answered. Now, all that being said and done, let's assume all of that's happened. Then on the 6th, because we don't have a meeting on the 30th, on the 6th, we'll have the public hearing. And I imagine it will be the same, it will be, say, an hour, 2 minutes each, unless you want anything differently. But that's what we've done with public hearings. Do you want anything differently? Anybody? Okay, and then we will have the first reading on the 13th and the second reading on the 20th. So it gives the public, first of all, we're streaming everything, right?
Right.
Then we'll be meeting with people, if that's what you choose to do. And then any other questions, concerns, whatever, and everything's gonna be up on the website. All right. So is there anything else we can do to be helpful to you guys or your constituents? Because everything's been done publicly. We've all seen the same thing at the same time.
Right.
Is there anything else?
I mean, it's the mayor's budget, is him and his staff able to host, community member meetings with the community? Because we just approved the budget, we haven't had our hands in the works of the budget. Like, I'd like to see them host a couple of sessions, and they have before, about it, not just prior to, but now that the budget has been released, and gather input from.
Well, and that's up to the executive
Yeah.
branch. The mayor did come last week and speak,
That's-
and there were two public meetings, but this is one of our members' suggestion to you guys now that it's been published, but that's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, we can take that back.
All right. Is there anything else that anybody needs for either you or your constituencies relative to education on the budget? The whole budget is online, the checkbook is there. If there's something else we need to do to be transparent, let me know. Okay, so this is kind of a fun thing. This is talking about incentives. And it's a program that I think is a great idea that executive branch has instituted about how do we allow the thinking to go to our whole demographic in the city? And I'll let you take it from there, right?
Sure. So Tim will walk us through this. I've asked Tim to do some research across the country in terms of other government organizations that have similar programs, so that we weren't reinventing the wheel here. And so that's what a lot of this is based on. But the idea came from actually Dax Sirio. He's an engineer in Public Works. I had a team meeting in Public Works, and he said, "Hey, he had heard how TVA had a program that said, hey, if you, as a team member, came up with an idea that could save the organization a lot of money, that there would be some kind of incentive for you to bring that idea forward. That idea gets implemented, and it saves the organization money, but you have some kind of reward for bringing that forward." And I said, "Hey, I think that's a great idea. Let's look into it." So I brought that to Tim, asked if he could do some research, and so Tim's helped kind of outline a program here. We will be putting it forward as a resolution with the budget. This has been in consultation with Stan Sewell, so that we are making sure we're within the right guardrails here and not going out of bounds. And in consultation with y'all, we want to make sure everything's above board and have the right checks and balances here. But again, feel like we've done some good due diligence here, and that this, like to Councilwoman Burz's point, creates the right kind of incentives and behaviors throughout the organization, so that all of our team members can be focused on cost savings, for our taxpayers. So, Tim, do you want to step through this? Hopefully this is only 5 or so minutes, and just to give you guys kind of the high level here.
Yeah, so it is kind of high level. We do have program details that, if they haven't been shared, can be shared. But this is generally what it is. So Ryan touched upon it. It's an incentive program for city employees to find cost savings, right? So it's very kind of at its simplest level. That's what we're trying to achieve with this. The reason why we're wanting to do this is, the city really wants to make every dollar count. And so money savings that we find in one place can be directed to our priorities and the One Chattanooga goals that we have out there. And so when we find those savings, we can reallocate them to other initiatives. This fits right in with our goal 7, which is the efficient and effective local government. But as I said, as we begin to find these savings, we can actually start to reallocate them and put them to other goals and other priorities within the city.
I'll just also pause real quick and say that part of the premise behind this is the folks who have the best ideas are the folks who are closest to the work. Not me, not the mayor, not Tim, not department heads. It's the folks who are in the work every day, who see possible waste, possible inefficient processes, right? They're the ones who have the best ideas. And so we have to help them really be incentivized to bring those ideas forward. So
people in overalls, not the suits.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So, how this was developed, like I said, we looked at federal, state, and local programs that had government programs that have similar kind of efforts going on. We actually ended up, kind of taking the best elements of kind of these programs that we thought fit. And one of them was that we looked at Columbia, Missouri, which has been doing this for like 10 years or 10 plus years. So they've been doing this program for a long time. So we had an interview with their deputy city manager, kind of talking about how the program operates and how what that looks like. So again, we did a research, took the best from all those elements, and then kind of collaborated with the internal team, city attorney's office, the internal audit, Brian, myself, to kind of develop this proposed, and also a senior data analyst in my team to kind of create a proposed program. So that's kind of how we got to the initial program and what it looks like. At a very high level, this is how it's going to work. So employees, and to Ryan's point, frontline employees are going to be closest to those problems, able to identify some really opportunities there. Have an idea. They submit an employee recommendation form, which kind of says kind of how things are going right now, how things could be in the future and what would be the savings associated with their idea. That those are suggested by an internal review committee. And then ideas are selected and implemented, and submitters are recognized and rewarded from the city's innovation fund, right? So this is using the kind of the innovation fund we already have to incentivize these type of creative, cost-saving ideas in the city. The amounts look something like this. You know, I'm not going to read them all, but you can kind of see as more savings are realized, the awards go up, right? And so that's to, you know, if you find some really big savings, there's some substantial awards you can get, and also some substantial savings to the taxpayers. We think this is going to lead to kind of a more engaged workforce. It's going to help contribute to those city goals and really provides that financial award to the submitter itself. Trying to think what else to say about the program itself. This will be our kind of, if we go forward with this will be our first year, you know, working through it, and it seems fairly straightforward, and I feel like the plan we've been able to put forward has, you know, covers a lot of contingencies and what's else, and kind of tries to do this in a responsible way. So.
Questions, concerns?
The internal review committee consists of whom?
Yeah, I think so. It's the chief operating officer, so Ryan. I think we had, was it HR or finance? Who was the? I think both. Both, yeah. So I think it's those, and I think myself as well. So, but yeah, is that right?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I asked Stan to be on it. He declined.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I didn't want to say it.
He didn't think that would be appropriate. So, but
It's a great way to get out of a meeting.
yeah.
I have a committee pulled up if you want me to read the list.
Did he miss anyone?
I think so. So Deputy Chief Human Resources Officer Ryan, Chief of Staff, and the CFO.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go. Thanks. Something else I would just mention, and I mean, we are capping it at, you know, a certain level of leaders are expected to do this without incentives, right? So deputies and above are not going to be eligible for this. Yeah, essentially appointed folks are not going to be eligible for this. If your job is to do this kind of thing, you're not going to be eligible for this, right? So anyway, there are some people out of scope for this. I just want to call that out.
So that means I'm missing out on $5,000.
Yeah, I think, yeah, elected officials are not eligible. That's right, yeah.
So we can't just start slashing the budget. That's right. We're out, right?
That's right, you're out,
Okay.
you're out, yes.
Did
Madam
you have a
Chair,
question?
I did, yes, outside of that. Can you win this? Is it your intention to be able to win this more than once?
I think, I can't remember what we landed on that.
Right, because we went back and forth as if it was. I know it was at least. I think the question was, can you win it more than once in the same year?
Yeah.
And so I think generally we said no there, but I think the idea is like if you have another idea in the following year that like has some savings with it, you can submit it as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we want, generally people with good ideas are gonna have more than one idea.
Yeah.
And that's great. I don't know why I don't know why taxpayers would want to limit that from happening, right?
More than
So,
one person submit an idea to you and
Yeah.
split. Hey, we were thinking, because we work on that.
yes, yes, and then
So
we'll
it's not
split,
limited
and then we would split the award, yes.
And part of the form they fill out is kind of saying what they think the split should be, you know,
Yeah.
based on it. So.
And we have the full policy that we can give to all of you for further review with more details that goes into some of that, and we can fine tune it based on feedback as well. So,
Okay, yeah.
Councilwoman?
Okay, so the award money, is it taxed?
It is taxed, and
Not
it's
getting no
actually,
fine.
hey, everything's taxed, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's tax it out.
So that's the federal government's law, not ours.
1.1725.
But
Yeah, so they ain't gonna
Yeah.
get that.
yeah, it's actually.
Bless their heart for $100. That might not be worth it.
You might just
It is
do
actually.
the right thing without them.
Yeah.
It is actually taxed at kind of, you know, at a higher level than what their normal pay would be. So we'll actually try to factor that into the award, so that whatever we tell them the award is will be after tax, is what the
After
award
tax.
is.
Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, cause
Yeah.
that $5,000 could very well throw a person into another tax bracket, which would not be a good thing for that person. I would leave that 5,000 on the table.
Yeah, that is something we talked about, is trying to ensure that the award is after taxes. Because that does get folks into some trouble sometimes, so.
Are there other questions or concerns? Great idea. Is that it? Okay, listen,
One more,
yeah.
one more. Is it, 'cause- and I like this, I don't know why we haven't been doing this in the past, I'm sure we have, but not actually structured to where people have access to it, and I think that opening it up and creating access is fantastic. Are we trying to create a culture of accountability that with incentives to kind of, I mean, we talk a lot about people who perform, and when I never hear the word performance when we talk about government and government jobs sometimes. It's always, it seems like we skate around it. I'm feeling like you're pushing a little bit towards performance and accountability by actually offering a reward, which is nice, because at the end of the day, the bottom line is people would like to be rewarded for their efforts, and I feel like you're pushing towards that culture of accountability, or building on it even more. Is that, am I off base with the thinking?
Yeah, no, that's right. So, a couple of our values are do the right thing, and problem solving. I think this fits in with both of those values. And as we continue to try to turn the ship here, what you're saying is spot on in terms of, yes, those values, yes, around performance and accountability. And, I talked about the civil service, civilian non-sworn step plan last week, and how, it will have a performance component to it.
Sure.
We will have to take, steps towards that, walk, crawl, run, crawl, walk, run progression there, because we have to build out the systems and the processes to get there. But yes, we have to continue to lean in to performance and accountability as an organization. So we're on a journey in that direction, and this will be an important element of that.
Excellent. Right move. Thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anything else? Listen, guys, thank you so much. You've done a fabulous job with the budget and the budget education sessions. I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you, Madam
We
Chair.
are
for the chair.
adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, we out. Now it's back to play, like play. Y'all quit taking this budget so serious.